Madison's life had always been a delicate balance between what she felt and what she knew was right. But everything began to unravel when Ethan entered her world. She had always thought that her marriage to Jack was solid, secure, yet something was missing, a sense of connection that seemed to fade as the years went by. Ethan's presence, however, felt different. He wasn't just a spark in the dullness of her life. He ignited something she hadn't felt in years. The line between right and wrong blurred when their stolen moments, their quiet exchanges, turned into something deeper, more forbidden. But every stolen glance and whispered secret came at a price she couldn't ignore. Guilt gnawed at her, even as the passion between her and Ethan grew stronger, more undeniable. The storm she feared had always lingered at the edge of her consciousness, waiting for the moment when it would break and rip through everything. It wasn't long before that moment came. Jack returned home early one evening, his cold presence filling the room like a chilling wind. Madison had barely enough time to gather herself before Jack's gaze, sharp and calculating, swept across the room, lingering on Ethan's absence and the tension in the air. His voice, calm yet laced with something darker, asked, "Where's Ethan?" Panic surged through Madison's chest, but Lily, ever the quick thinker, excused herself and left the room. Now it was just her and Jack, the air between them thick with unspoken accusations. Jack's eyes never left her as he stood still, as though searching for the truth beneath her skin. "You're hiding something, aren't you?" he asked, his voice low and dangerous. Madison's heart pounded in her chest, but she forced out the words, "There's nothing," even though every fiber of her being betrayed her. Jack's silence grew heavier as he turned, walking toward the window, his gaze distant but intense. And in that silence, Madison felt the world shift. He knew, he had to know. His next words confirmed it. "If what I'm thinking is true, then everything between us ends here." The finality of those words hit her like a wave, sweeping over her with an overwhelming force that left her breathless. She had crossed a line with Ethan, and now she had crossed a line with Jack too. The storm she feared had arrived, and there was no escaping it. Jack left, the echo of his footsteps a cruel reminder of everything she had lost. Alone in the living room, Madison sank onto the sofa, her chest tight with guilt, fear, and the weight of her choices. Time felt suspended, and the silence that followed Jack's departure was suffocating. She didn't know how long she sat there, but when she finally looked up, the light outside had dimmed and dusk had fallen. The darkness outside mirrored the heaviness inside her. As much as she wanted to run, to escape the mess she had created, she knew she couldn't. She had to face it. Ethan returned that evening, the air between them thick with the unspoken tension. He found her sitting motionless on the sofa, her eyes swollen and red from crying. The concern in his eyes was evident, but there was also a hint of fear in the way he stepped closer. "What happened?" he asked, his voice filled with worry. Madison looked at him, her heart heavy with the knowledge that she was about to shatter everything between them. "Jack knows," she whispered, her voice trembling. Ethan froze, shock and confusion flooding his face. He sat down beside her, his body tense, not touching her as he normally would. "What did he say?" he asked cautiously, but Madison couldn't hold back the flood of emotions any longer. "He didn't say it outright, but he knows something's going on between us," she replied, her voice breaking. The weight of the truth hung between them, suffocating both of them. Ethan's face twisted in pain, his fists clenched as he processed her words. He had been trying to hold on to something, trying to convince himself that there was a way forward for them, but Madison's words shattered that hope. "This isn't right. It never was," she said, her voice steady now, though her heart felt like it was breaking. She had tried to ignore it, tried to pretend that the feelings she had for Ethan weren't a betrayal, but deep down, she knew they were. Ethan's pain mirrored hers, but she couldn't lie to herself any longer. She had already hurt Jack, hurt herself, and now she was terrified of hurting Ethan too. "You're trying to push me away, aren't you?" Ethan said, his voice raw with emotion. Madison took a deep breath, her resolve hardening. "Not because I want to, but because we have to. I've already crossed too many lines, Ethan. I've hurt Jack, I've hurt myself, and I'm terrified of hurting you too." Her words landed between them like a final warning, a line drawn in the sand. The truth was, there was nothing left to say. They had gone too far, and now the only thing left was the fallout. The next morning, Madison made a decision. She packed a small bag, leaving behind only a letter for Jack. In it, she explained that she needed space to think, to figure out what she wanted and where she stood. She didn't offer excuses, didn't try to justify her actions, only an apology for the pain she had caused. As she stepped out of the house, she felt a deep ache in her chest, but there was also a small, almost imperceptible sense of relief. She knew this was the right choice. Ethan didn't try to stop her. He stood at the foot of the stairs, watching silently as she left. A part of him wanted to call out, to beg her to stay, but another part understood that this distance was the only way for both of them to find their way back. As Madison drove away, the weight of Ethan's gaze lingered on her, but she refused to look back. She couldn't afford to. She needed this time to heal, to figure out who she was, and to find a way to put the pieces of her life back together. In the weeks that followed, Madison immersed herself in writing. She gave herself permission to feel, to create, to embrace the emotions she had buried for so long. She didn't contact Jack or Ethan, but they both remained with her in her heart, pieces of a story that had shaped her life in ways she couldn't deny. One late summer day, a letter arrived from Ethan. It was brief, simple, but brimming with sincerity. "Thank you for helping me realize that sometimes freedom comes from letting go. I hope you find your own freedom too." Madison read the letter with tears in her eyes, folding it carefully and placing it in a journal where she kept the things most precious to her, a record of the journey that had brought her to this point. And then she moved forward, not with Jack, not with Ethan, but with herself. It was a new path, one where she could reclaim what she had lost: hope, freedom, and the love she owed to herself. The story wasn't over, not by a long shot. It had just begun.